Good morning, Mr. Peterson.
Good morning, Viviana.
Today we're here to have coffee with the superintendent, and we're excited to be here.
Very excited.
Cheers. Now, I hear the buzz around the school district about that the Santa Fe Bowl game is today, where Merced High School visits Atwater High School.
Yep, it's going to be a packed house at Atwater. I would expect a large percentage of both communities being there, and I think we're all excited for this year's Santa Fe Bowl. This is not necessarily the championship game, but I think most people understand that these are the top two teams in the league. Whoever wins, as long as they win out their final couple games, are definitely going to go to the playoffs. The sad thing is the loser here, even if you get second place in our league, it's iffy whether they would even get a bid for the Sac Joaquin section as a Division II school. So our league is rated much weaker than the Northern League. So it's for all the marbles tonight. And it's been since, let's see, 1998 was the last Atwater championship. Bernard Berrien, most local football fans remember that name, played for the Chicago Bears. And let's see, then we had Nate Sanchez in 2009. That was probably the last huge, game that I can remember that Merced and Atwater had. So looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun night.
Yeah. So we had various questions submitted to us by parents, students, and staff, and we're here to answer all those questions that were submitted. We're going to start off with a staff question, and they ask, when do you plan to offer the PARS retirement bonus?
I think we will probably make that decision in the spring of this coming year, 25. And we have already talked with the board about budgeting for another PARS, but we have not put our finger on the actual year when that's going to be offered. I would say that's 2 or 3 years out.
Okay. And then the following question was asked, is it possible to have a week off in October and either add a week to the end of June or at the beginning of August?
The answer to, is it possible? Yes, it is possible. But the calendars for MUHSD is a very complicated system because we have 12 feeder schools. We have parents that have students in both MUHSD and our local feeders. So we try to keep everybody together with the same or similar calendar. So if everyone agreed to a week in October, which I'm telling you right now, that would be very hard to get everyone to agree, but is it possible? Yes. Just understand that that process can get real complicated real quick.
Okay. And then the following question was asked about facilities. So they say, my question is about the MUHSD Stadium. They had told me that it would be ready for the next graduation, which I was excited about since it's the year my daughter graduates. Is it true? You don't see much progress with the Thomas Alida School in the Atwater District. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, Thomas Alida and the MUHSD Stadium, those are two different districts. And the answer to their question is no, it will not be ready for graduation. So I'm not sure where they got that information. We do expect it to be done in the early fall of next year. So hopefully we will be able to get some games in. But I will also say we expected the Merced pools and Atwater pools to be ready sometime during water polo this season, trying to get at least a couple games in at each school, and that just did not work out. These projects are huge, multi-million-dollar projects, and sometimes materials get delayed. Sometimes there are
weather.
Weather. There's just all kinds of variables. So everyone needs to be patient with that. And while we set a timeline, usually it goes a little farther than what we expected to, unfortunately.
Yeah, and this question was asked in Spanish, so I'll kind of provide the answer in Spanish. So la pregunta que un padre nos mandó era si el estadio de BUHAC iba a estar listo para las graduaciones que pasan en junio. Y ella también dijo que no había mucho progreso en la escuela de Thomas Alida, pero son diferentes distritos. So, para nosotros, ojalá no se generó esa información, pero para el próximo... como en septiembre, por allí, octubre va a estar listo, pero pensamos también que a veces queremos que el proyecto esté ya listo, pero a veces hay como dificultades porque también decimos que va a estar listo, pero a veces los contractores que vienen nos dan hay diferentes problemas, o a veces dura un poquito más. So, si quiere mandar otra pregunta después o tiene más, si quiere, le damos más información si me manda a mi correo electrónico. Okay, and we'll move on to the following question, which is a parent concern. They asked, with no restrictions, is a parent allowed to go to your school? El Capitan High School asked for the child. If the child doesn't want to speak to the parent, is the school administrator allowed to go ask that child if he or she wants to speak to his or her parents? Is the school administrator allowed to help the child make that decision? In short question, asking if a school administrator is allowed to show a child that is okay not to obey their parents.
This is a nuanced answer.
Okay.
It's not appropriate for me to get into all of it. It sounds like this is a particular issue that a parent has or that they experience and they're frustrated about. So I would encourage them to either call me directly or call LCAP and Mrs. Cope directly to express their concern. I'll just say in general, yes, any parents that are on the contact list for the student always have access to their student.
Okay. So the following questions about cell phones. Is the no cell phone policy just for students or staff too? I'm asking because almost every day I see one of your security liaison on their phones instead of looking at the faces of the kids as they enter campus. What is the point of having them show their IDs if no one is really even looking because they're too busy on their phones? Sometimes they even have their back to the gate, students, because they're talking on the phone. I understand sometimes it could be work-related, but every day I don't think so.
Well, I would agree with you if that actually happened as stated. That shouldn't happen. We expect all of our liaisons to be professional and accountable for their responsibilities. Yes, they will use their phone for school business, but should anyone be scrolling or have their back to, scrolling on social media during the workday or, having their back to, their actual responsibility? Of course not. And I would encourage parents when they see concerns like that to talk to their school administration.
Yeah. The following question is in regards to student involvement. A parent asks, what does the school district do to foster friendships among students coming in from different school districts? Unfortunately, my child and a few others in the neighborhood went to MUHSD schools since preschool, and most of their friends are in the Golden Valley. I think they mean Golden Valley High School. And we unfortunately ended up in the LCAP district. Oh, they're talking about boundaries.
Yeah, they're talking about Weber and then students moving on to Golden Valley and LCAP.
Thankfully, each of these boys have been able to eat lunch together rather than be alone because each one of them lost their entire group of friends to district boundary lines, which make no sense. The transition to high school is already hard, especially for 14-year-old boys, but they have to also endure losing friendships to boundary lines. Feeling hopeless and alone It's been almost 3 months, and my son just is now getting his spark back. It's been difficult to watch. I had to encourage him to reach out to other boys and talk him through what he was experiencing, and that other boys were likely experiencing the same thing. I just don't want the next wave of 9th graders from small school district to feel forgotten.
Well, that is a great comment, and I would thank the parent for continuing to push the student and encourage them to reach out and get involved in things. We do have to have school boundaries, and it might not make sense to a particular neighborhood that one side of the road goes to one school and the other side of the road goes to the other. That happens. You know, boundaries in school districts are always difficult conversations, but we do have to have them. I'm going to read this. It's a little bit lengthy, but it also gives me an opportunity to talk about everything that's available to cover this issue. And I actually, at lunch yesterday, was having this exact same conversation because it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
It is very difficult for 8th grade students that have gone to smaller districts and then they come to a 2,000 student high school. It's hard for them to, you know, wrap their head around that and not feel like they're a number and put themselves out there and get involved. So I'm just going to cover everything we do. MUHSD has robust activities and athletic programs in which we highly recommend all students participate. Each school has a unique club opportunities that are typically highlighted through club rushes at the beginning of the school year. There are 3 athletic seasons, fall, winter, and spring, with several sports being offered to students. Many of our CTE programs have student organizations that offer leadership opportunities and host competitions. Likewise, MUHSD has a well-developed performing arts program offering theater, band, jazz, and choir programs. And El Capitan will be offering a new dance pathway next year. All sites also offer assets, and that's our after-school program that hosts various clubs and activities. And that's a great way for a student like this parent's you know, to get involved, hang around school and have some fun. And that's kind of where you make connections. Last year, 85% of MUHSD students were involved in clubs, athletics, performing arts, CTE programs, and assets. So there truly is something for everyone. We highly encourage everyone to make sure their student is involved in extra and co-curricular activities, because that's just a proven fact. The more they're involved, the higher they achieve.
Yes. And I think also too, leadership is another great way, because sometimes they work with upperclassmen, and kind of I feel like upperclassmen can be a gateway to encourage students as well, like peers, like, hey, you should join this club, or you should come and check out this, or come to this FFA event.
Yeah.
So I think
leadership also provides a pathway for freshmen and sophomore students to get involved.
Yeah. So lots of opportunities, and just finding the right one for that student.
Yep.
So the next question is related to educational services. So they say, talk to us about rigor. I see it's a district goal, but I don't see anything rigorous about my high achieving students' classes.
Okay, well, I would first say that that's a concern of ours, and why it's a goal. We use DOK, or depth of knowledge, to kind of measure that. So we're doing that on a weekly basis at all of our sites. All of our teachers, all of our administrators have been trained, and we're trying to push up that DOK level. And kind of what that means overall is application, real life application of the knowledge that they receive in the classroom, and to be able to talk about it and use it. And I would say if you have a high performing student and you're seeing this, I would encourage them to look at Merced College also, just to help supplement that issue and to make sure that your student is pushed. I will say our teachers have a huge job and a huge responsibility. You know, they have in some cases 30 to 40 kids in their classroom, all various ranges of skills and abilities, and they're responsible for teaching all of them.
Yeah.
So we continue to improve in that area, but we know it is a need.
Okay. The following question is about missing assignments. So they say, my question is, why don't some of the teachers give one more opportunity to the students of missing assignments, especially for students doing sports?
Well, number one, make sure you are aware of the teacher's policy for the teachers that your student has. And, you know, and teachers have the responsibility and the leeway to create their own policies about how their classroom works.
Yes.
And frankly, that's part of the learning process, is learning how to deal with teacher X and learning how to deal with teacher Y, and their different personalities, their different policies. You know, so it's not I think the question is basically why is it not standardized? And that's why it's up to the teacher.
And I think another important thing, I think especially for students who are also planning to go to college or in the workforce, is like you have to communicate, right? So if you know you're going to have a game on a certain day and you already have your schedule for the games, it's like, hey, so-and-so teacher, like this is coming up. Is there any way for I can plan ahead or get ahead on something? So just communicating too with the teacher, because I don't think the teachers can keep up with all the activities and sports that go on.
Yeah.
So also like talking to the teacher, see if maybe they can help the student plan better.
Yeah, early on, which means families and students need to plan early on and stay ahead of the game.
Not the day before.
Yeah, it gets difficult when it's the day of or, you know, after.
Yeah. And then the following question is how to seek scholarships or financial aid for students for school.
Well, talk to your counselor. Number one, all counselors have a knowledge of this area. And then we have Mrs. Lance and Mrs. Ruiz, who have specialized knowledge. And students and parents have access to both of our college counselors. They're at all of our sites at least one day a week. And they can reach out and make an appointment and sit down and talk to them about the various opportunities there. All seniors also receive a fall and spring newsletter with updated information regarding college application periods and scholarships and financial aid. And we also have great scholarship page or resource on the MUHSD website.
And also now they are very active on social media. So they've been posting all the links for students too, because they know students are also there. And that's a great way for students to keep up with deadlines as well. And also to click one easy click to make an appointment. Yeah.
And that's really, really stressful for parents of seniors and even juniors as they plan for the next year. And I would say, much like the last question, you have to plan for that. You have to stay on top of it. It's not something that, you know, you talk about in September and then don't talk again about it with your family until December. It's just an ongoing conversation, and because there's a lot of research that has to be done, and that they have to take it upon themselves to we can provide the resources, but they need to go through them and see what fits best for them.
Yeah, and I could probably send out Parent Square to senior parents too, so they can have a refresher and have that information too. And let's see, the following question is about foreign languages. So they say, will MUHSD incorporate or offer and other foreign language options to fulfill the foreign language academic requirement, such as Portuguese, whether it be on-site at high school or via online college courses?
So we have Spanish at all of our sites. Golden Valley has French and Hmong also. Livingston has Punjabi. But that's it as far as what we offer with foreign language. Certainly encourage you to look at Merced College if that is something you're interested in. There are also all kinds of various online programs that our Ed Services Department can help them with. So I encourage them to give Ed Services a call, and they can point them in the right direction.
Sounds great. And then the following question is, can community service be a requirement to graduate? This would have students engage with community and gain experience.
Could it be a requirement? Yes. Is it a requirement? No. Have we talked about making it a requirement? We've had conversations, not lately, about that. A large percentage of our students get community service cords at graduation and do that on their own. I agree that it is a great idea. However, much like I'm going to answer a question coming up, the more mandates that we put on students, the less kind of voice and choice there is for students. And all students are not the same. They all have interests, and those interests are varied. You know, so we basically give them the choice right now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the CTE pathways and clubs do that as well. Somehow I see the CTE pathways volunteering time and things like that. So a lot of that gets done. The following questions are regard to vaping. So I'm going to read the first question. My daughter is a freshman at MUHSD and complains that she cannot use the bathroom because kids are taking up stalls to vape. So she waits and waits because she really needs to use the restroom and has even been late to class. How can MUHSD do a better job of ensuring the campus is safe and drug-free? Now, we also received 2 other questions about vaping and having the same frustration about using the bathroom and the stalls being taken. And like they said, like it's kind of hard when a student needs to use it and he needs to get back to class. So,
well, this is a concern for everyone, not a new concern. We have tried various things like vaping sensors in the bathroom. That didn't go so well.
Okay.
What we generally do is we have liaisons go in and check during passing period and lunch. Do they catch everyone? No.
Okay.
It is very rare on a coffee with a soup that we get 3 questions on the same topic.
Yes.
That sends a message to me that all sites need to be reminded and addressed on this issue to do the very best they can with supervision. So female students, male students don't feel uncomfortable when they walk in. Students, you know, in a group or however they do it, or in a stall where, you know, you're waiting on, you know, what they're doing in there, and you're waiting on access, and then you can't use the restroom, then you're late to your next class. So I will address this with all sites.
And sometimes, like, I know some students say it's frustrating because they're an athlete and they're drinking lots of water and things like that.
Sure.
I think also if you see something, say something, because that might help, like, get you access, and somebody can come in, an administrator, liaison to come in really quick and handle the situation instead of you trying to confront. So that might be another thing if it's something that's happening. That's another way.
And most students aren't going to, you know, go out to the liaison and complain about it immediately. You know, because they don't want to cause problems. I get that. But it's also important that they don't accept the status quo. And, you know, if you're seeing this every day, it's important that students tell an administrator and ask the administrator, what are you going to do to help me? Have a straightforward conversation about it.
The following question is, Mr. Peterson, you have provided our district with 10 years of strong and steady leadership. The average tenure for a superintendent in California is 2.5 years. What do you attribute your and our success to?
I don't think there's an easy answer here, Viviana. I think it's multi-layered. I grew up in this district as an administrator, so when I became the superintendent in 2015, I understood the community. I think that helps things move quickly. We've always had a very strong board that understands their role, that is supportive, that is accountable, that holds me accountable. I've had evaluations every year, just finished my current one last week or 2 weeks ago. And there's always a straightforward conversation about what needs to be improved and also what they're thankful for. And so, and that conversation, that evaluation conversation trickles down to cabinet, those that report to me at the district office, and then to principals, and then to the sites. I think we've done a really good job of developing leaders in this district and the next generation of leaders. We've also done a really good job of our relationship with our unions. And we don't always agree, but we respectfully work things out for the best interest of all. And things don't get real testy in MUHSD, which I'm thankful for. Not the way it is at other districts sometimes. And I think the governance team, which is the board and myself, that is really important. Having a good, strong board where we can honestly communicate issues back and forth, our hopes and dreams for the future, and our areas of improvement, and we just keep refining and keep getting better every year.
Okay. The following question is, as you look into your crystal ball, what are you most concerned about in the short term and long term?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so I would say short term, I am most concerned about local control and the philosophy from the state that allowed for local control over the last 15 years. And I see that slowly eroding. Whether we talk about requirements that the legislatures come up with, which lately has been ethnic studies, computer science, financial literacy, all things we do. But when they legislate those things upon us, that makes things real hard because we have our own requirements and our own local expectations. And the power base in the legislature generally is in the Sacramento area, the Bay Area, and the LA area. And, you know, so it's what districts in those areas want. And California is a varied state with, you know, all sorts of different values from area to area, different interests, different industries. And so it's very hard at the state level to say, well, this is what we need to do for everyone. Let us make that decision.
Yes.
So I'm concerned about that in the short term. The long term part of it is staying on the cutting edge. I think a lot of our teachers and administrators and hopefully even parents that have students that have attended districts outside of ours understand that we are on the cutting edge most of the time. So on a long-term basis, you always want to plan for and prepare ahead of time, you know, for changes. Our society is changing so rapidly, and change is hard for schools and school districts, and they have to keep up with the changes in society. Much like our CTE program and our 7-period day and all the changes we've made over the last 10 years that create better outcomes and better prepared students as they face their face and prepare for their future. So
yes,
and creating like our MUHSD 2030, creating a process in the district to have that conversation.
yes.
Okay, well, what's the world going to look like in 5 years? What do we need to prepare for? So that's always a long-term concern of mine.
And then the final question for today is, as you look back on your tenure, what are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? I am proud of, well, here, I'll give everyone a visual.
Okay.
Sam Meredith is an ag teacher at Atwater High School. And when I started, I asked him to make me a square peg with a round hole. And as you see here, there are little notches in this round hole.
Yes.
And that's kind of what we have done here. You have a general idea on what's best for all kids, but then you adjust things, you refine things, you change things to cover students' various desires and interests for their futures. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that, of creating the notches in the system to make things a little bit more individualized, which is hard for comprehensive high schools. So I'm proud of that. I'll give you an example. It was probably 2 years ago. I was at a Livingston girls basketball game, and I had a parent come up to me, didn't know the parent. She sat down next to me. We shook hands. She introduced herself. She was a mom. And she said, "You're Mr. Peterson, right?" And I said, "Yes." And, almost with tears in her eyes, she said, "I just want to thank you, because my daughter graduated from UC Davis in 3 years, and she would have never done that if you didn't make the changes that were made."
Yeah.
And, we have kids that are graduating from our high schools with AA degrees, not just 1 or 2, but multiple kids. And we have hundreds of kids that are graduating with college credit, and that adds up. And so they take that experience that they had in high school. Number one, they're better prepared for college, when they take their next step, because they've already experienced it in high school. And then they finish earlier. Well, that's real money.
Yeah.
That's at a school like UC Davis, that's probably $35,000.
Yeah.
That was saved in that 1 year. So I'm proud of those various changes for all students, not just college bound, but all of our CTE pathways that prepare our students for the world of work, because not every student has to go to college to be successful in life.
Yes.
And not every student goes to college right out of high school. Sometimes they go to work for 5 years and will go back to college as they can. And we have to respect everyone's wishes and desires and dreams and give them as many opportunities as possible.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us for Coffee with the Superintendent. We'll be back in December, so stay tuned for that. We'll send out the forms again through Parent Square, so people can fill those out, and on our newsletter. So if you missed today's, we'll send everybody out a link to this live stream. So
all right.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Viviana.
And have a great day, everybody.
Wishing everyone a wonderful weekend.